It was just another ordinary day, or so he thought. A father, struggling to make ends meet, was driving home after a long shift, his mind consumed with the weight of his responsibilities. He had a family to care for, bills to pay, and dreams that felt just out of reach. The last thing he expected that day was for his life to take a turn that would change everything he thought he knew about kindness, luck, and how the world works. He was heading down a quiet street when he saw her, a woman standing by the side of the road, looking frustrated as she glanced under the hood of her car. It was an older model, the kind that had seen better days. He could see she was clearly having trouble, and he couldn't help but notice the distress in her eyes. Without thinking twice, he pulled over, instinctively wanting to help. "Is everything all right?" he asked, stepping out of his car and walking toward her. The woman glanced up at him, clearly relieved to see someone willing to offer assistance. "My car won't start. I'm not sure what's wrong with it," she explained, her voice laced with concern. He looked at the engine, trying to figure out what could be the problem. The father wasn't a mechanic, but he knew enough to give it a shot. After all, he had spent years tinkering with old cars, fixing whatever he could to save a few bucks. His hands were rough from years of hard work, but they were also skilled in making things work when they seemed beyond repair. As he knelt down to inspect the engine, his mind wandered. He thought about his kids at home, how he wished he could give them more, how he was doing his best to make sure they had everything they needed. The stress of everyday life weighed heavily on him, and yet here he was, stopping to help a complete stranger. It wasn't that he expected anything in return. He had always believed in doing what was right, even when it was difficult, and sometimes, just sometimes, the universe had a way of rewarding those small acts of kindness. He worked quickly, his hands moving with a familiarity born of years of necessity. The woman watched him with a mixture of gratitude and curiosity. She hadn't expected this. She hadn't expected him to stop at all. Most people would have just driven by, but not this man. He was different. He had a sincerity to him, something she couldn't quite put her finger on. Finally, after a few minutes of work, the engine roared to life. The woman's face lit up with relief. "You did it," she exclaimed. "Thank you so much. I don't know what I would have done without you." He smiled modestly, brushing off her praise. "It's no big deal. Just glad I could help." But little did he know, his simple act of kindness was about to set off a chain of events that would completely change his life. As the woman thanked him again, she reached into her purse and pulled out her wallet. "I wish I could repay you somehow," she said, offering him a few $100s. "You really saved me today." He waved it off, shaking his head. "It's really not necessary. I just did what anyone would have done." But the woman wasn't going to take no for an answer. She insisted, pressing the money into his hand. "Please, just take it. I insist." He hesitated for a moment, but then relented, understanding that sometimes people just want to show their appreciation. After all, he'd been in situations before where a little bit of help could have made all the difference. They exchanged a few more words, and then she got into her car and drove off, disappearing into the distance. He watched her go, wondering for a moment who she was, where she was going. She seemed like a regular person, but there was something about her that felt different. What he didn't know, as he got back into his car and drove home to his family, was that the woman he had helped wasn't just any stranger on the side of the road. She was someone far more extraordinary than he could have ever imagined. Later that night, as he sat down to dinner with his wife and kids, he couldn't stop thinking about her. He hadn't asked for her name, but the brief encounter had left an impression on him. He couldn't shake the feeling that there was something significant about that moment, but it was just a passing thought, something he'd probably never, think about again, once life got back to its usual grind. But that wasn't the end of the story. In fact, it was only the beginning. The woman he had helped was not a stranger in the way he thought. She wasn't just another person in need. She was a woman with wealth, influence, and connections far beyond anything he could have imagined. And as fate would have it, their paths were about to cross again, in a way that would change his life forever. The next day, he received a call. It was from an unknown number. He almost didn't answer, thinking it was just a telemarketer or someone looking to sell him something. But something told him to pick up. And when he did, he couldn't believe what he was hearing. "Hi, this is Rachel." A voice on the other end of the line said, "I don't know if you remember me, but you helped me fix my car yesterday. I wanted to talk to you about something." He froze, recognizing the name instantly. It was her, the woman from the side of the road. But why was she calling him? What could she possibly want? Stay tuned. The answer is coming, but trust me, you won't expect it. This is a story about more than just a random act of kindness. It's about how a small moment can alter the course of someone's life. It's about the unexpected ways the world can change when you least expect it. And for this dad, his life was about to take a turn that would leave him questioning everything he knew about luck, fate, and what it means to truly help someone. The voice on the other end of the phone was calm, but firm. "Hi, this is Rachel. I don't know if you remember me, but you helped me fix my car yesterday. I wanted to talk to you about something." For a moment, he just stood there, his hand gripping the phone, unsure of what to say. He had helped a lot of people in his life, but this was different. This was Rachel, the woman who had seemed like any other person stranded on the side of the road. Why was she calling him now? And why did she sound so serious? I remember," he said, trying to keep his voice steady. "I'm glad your car's running again. What's going on?" There was a brief pause on the line before she spoke again. "Listen, I know this is going to sound a bit strange, but I need to ask you a favor. It's something I can't do alone, and you seem like someone who knows how to get things done." He shifted nervously. "I'm not sure what you mean. I'm just a guy, you know? I fix cars when I can, but I'm not some kind of expert." She laughed softly, the sound of it light but warm. "You don't give yourself enough credit. The truth is, I need someone to help me with something important, something that could make a real difference for you and your family." His heart skipped a beat. "What kind of thing?" Rachel took a deep breath, and he could hear the seriousness in her voice. "It's about business and opportunity. But before you jump to conclusions, let me explain." She paused again, and he could almost feel the weight of her words hanging in the air. "I know you're struggling. You've got a family to take care of, bills to pay, and everything's always a bit of a stretch, isn't it?" The words hit him harder than he expected. It felt like she was reading his life story in a way that made him uncomfortable. His thoughts raced. How did she know that? Was she some kind of psychic? Or was it just a guess? "I'm not asking for charity," she continued. "I'm offering you a chance. A real chance to change things for you. I want you to come meet me. Meet her." He was still trying to process the idea. Rachel didn't seem like the type to make promises she couldn't keep. But what was it she was really offering? Was this some kind of business venture? Was she trying to sell him something? Or was this a scam? "I don't know what you're talking about," he admitted, his voice starting to crack. "I can't. Just show up. I've got a family. I can't afford to waste time on things that don't make sense. Trust me," she said, her voice calm but persuasive. "Just come meet me. I'll explain everything. I'm sure you'll see why this could change everything for you." The uncertainty in his chest was growing, but something about her voice, something about her confidence, made him feel like he couldn't walk away from this. Maybe this was the kind of opportunity he had been waiting for without even knowing it. He hesitated for a long moment. His mind spun with possibilities. He wanted to believe her, but there was a nagging feeling in the back of his head telling him to be careful. His life had been one of hard work and struggle. He wasn't used to getting opportunities handed to him. Every chance he'd gotten had been earned, fought for, and built up from scratch. Nothing ever came easy. And yet, here was Rachel, offering him something he didn't fully understand. "I'll come," he finally said. "But I need more than just words. If this is a joke, it's not a joke," she interrupted. "I'll text you the address. Just be there. Trust me." After hanging up, he stood in the quiet of his home, the phone still in his hand. His wife was in the kitchen, preparing dinner, her voice soft and steady as she hummed to herself. Their kids were in the living room, playing with their toys, completely unaware of the weight of the moment. He didn't know what to expect, but he couldn't shake the feeling that something big was about to happen. His gut told him this was more than just a simple favor or a quick money-making scheme. There was something deeper at play, something beyond what he could see. The next day, he found himself standing outside a fancy office building, unsure of what to do next. He had driven to the address Rachel had sent him, only to be greeted by a glass and steel skyscraper that looked nothing like the places he usually visited. The lobby was filled with polished marble floors, sleek furniture, and people dressed in sharp suits. It felt like a different world altogether, one he didn't belong in. But here he was. As he stepped off the elevator and into the private office on the top floor, Rachel was waiting for him, sitting behind a large wooden desk, her demeanor calm but professional. She smiled when she saw him, her eyes glowing with purpose. "I'm glad you came," he nodded, still unsure of why he was here. "So, what's this all about? What exactly do you need from me?" Rachel leaned forward, her fingers steepled in front of her. "You're a problem solver, right? A man who knows how to get things done. Well, I need someone like you to help me with a project. It's big, and it's going to take all of your skills. But I believe you're the right person for the job." "Project," he echoed, still not following. "What kind of project?" Rachel paused, her expression turning serious. "I'm talking about helping me with a major investment opportunity. It's not just about fixing cars or helping someone in need. It's about leveraging your skills to help me with something much larger." He felt a knot tighten in his stomach. This was no ordinary offer. It wasn't about fixing a car anymore. It was about entering a world he didn't know, one of big money, big risks, and even bigger rewards. But what if it was too much for him? What if this was more than he could handle? Before he could say anything more, she leaned back in her chair, her gaze unwavering. "I've been watching you for a while now, and I think you have the potential to be much more than you are right now. But the question is, are you ready to take the leap?" His heart was racing as Rachel's words hung in the air. "Are you ready to take the leap?" The question felt like a challenge, a test. He wasn't sure what she meant, but he could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on him. This wasn't the kind of offer that came around every day. It wasn't just a job. It was an invitation into a world that seemed out of reach, the world of wealth, power, and influence. The kind of world that could change everything for him, for his family. He took a deep breath, trying to steady himself. "What exactly are you asking me to do?" His voice was steady, though inside, he was on edge. Rachel smiled, but there was something different in her eyes now. Something that told him she wasn't just another wealthy businesswoman playing games. She was serious. "I want you to help me manage an investment I've been working on. It's big. and I need someone I can trust. Someone with real-world experience, not just business degrees or fancy connections. You've been through struggles, and that makes you the perfect person for this." The words sank in. A part of him wanted to laugh, to walk away, to tell her that he didn't belong in a world like this. But another part, the part that had spent years working tirelessly just to stay afloat, was drawn to her offer. He could feel his family's future in that moment, in the opportunity she was dangling in front of him. It was a chance to finally get ahead, to give his kids a life they deserved, to escape the constant cycle of living paycheck to paycheck. "All right," he said, surprising himself. "I'll help you, but you need to tell me what this is all about." Rachel leaned forward, her eyes locking onto his. "I've been investing in a series of businesses, small startups that have the potential to explode, but I need someone who understands the ground level, someone who knows how to roll up their sleeves and get their hands dirty. It's risky, but if we get it right, it could make us millions." His mind raced. Millions. Could he really pull this off? It seemed too big to believe, too surreal for someone like him. But Rachel's confidence was contagious. Maybe this was his shot at something bigger. Maybe this was the break he'd been waiting for. They talked for hours that day, mapping out the plan. She explained the ins and outs of the investment, the risks, the rewards. And the more she spoke, the more he felt a sense of purpose growing within him. He wasn't just a man struggling to survive anymore. He was a part of something bigger, something that could change everything. Over the next few weeks, he worked alongside Rachel, diving into the world of business he had never known. It was hard work, exhausting, and full of obstacles. But with every challenge came a new lesson. He learned how to manage people, how to make decisions that could impact entire companies, and how to think on a scale he'd never imagined before. And with each passing day, he realized something crucial. This wasn't just about money. It was about the potential for real change, for his family, his future, and the lives of the people around him. The business grew faster than anyone could have anticipated. The investment started paying off, and soon they were making money faster than he could count. Rachel kept her word, involving him in every decision, trusting him with more responsibility as time went on. But it wasn't just about the money anymore. He saw what Rachel saw in him, a person who understood the value of hard work, who wasn't afraid to get his hands dirty, a person who could make something out of nothing, because that's what he had done his whole life. One evening, as they stood on the balcony of a skyscraper Rachel had recently acquired, looking out over the city, she turned to him and said, "I knew from the moment I met you that you were capable of this. You just had to believe it." He smiled, the weight of everything they had built together settling on his shoulders. It wasn't just the money that mattered. It was the journey, the people he had met along the way, the relationships he had built, and the realization that his life had been shaped by more than just the struggles he had faced. It had been shaped by the choices he made, the risks he took, and the people who believed in him. As they looked out over the city, a new horizon stretched before him. The future was bright. He had changed, and so had his life. He wasn't just a struggling dad anymore. He was a man who had found his place in the world, a man who had seized an opportunity and made the most of it. And he knew that no matter what happened next, he would never be the same. It was funny, he thought, how one small decision, a simple act of kindness on a random afternoon, had led him to this. He had helped a woman fix her car without knowing who she was or what she could offer. But in the end, it wasn't the money that mattered. It was the realization that sometimes the universe offers you the chance to change everything. And if you're willing to take it, it can change your life in ways you could never imagine. The man who had once been struggling to get by was now standing on top of the world, a testament to the power of believing in yourself, taking risks, and trusting in the kindness of strangers. And as for Rachel, she was right. He had taken the leap, and it had made all the difference.